Found it. Yep.
Yeah.
Found it.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
I seem to have a different version. It's a little bit different to what it was last time I used it. Or maybe I was using GoToWebinar or something. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. I'll mute myself so you can start, Helen. Okay.
Lovely. And I shall do my very, very best because I've got a special audience.
Thank you.
Welcome to Time Mastery, and thank you for making the time to come to this webinar. I'm going to cover 9 ways to reclaim your precious time. But before we go on, my very next slide, if I press the right button somewhere, my very next slide says turn off your video, which I've already done. Okay, who am I? I'm known as the Operations Genie. I grant wishes to business owners to have a streamlined and growing business, to reclaim their time and enjoy their life because they've worked very hard for it and they deserve it. I'm a chartered accountant. I spent decades in large and small businesses, and a lot of the time when I was in businesses, I was fixing up messes. And in doing that, I learned a lot about what to do and what not to do. And I was working in accounting, IT, systems implementations, a lot of performance improvement and projects. I'm a mentor to business owners, and I'm the author of the book Operations Genie, which was released recently. There's to the book. Here's the Operations Genie system. And this is actually on the cover of the book, but there's 3 parts to it. There's self, strategy, and systems. And really, they work so closely together. The self being about the business owner and getting their act together, strategy, having a good defined strategy, and the systems to support the strategy to make sure that there's a consistent delivery of the product or service to the customers. And here we go. Self. Okay, here within my book and within my business, these are the areas that I cover in self. So looking after yourself, decluttering, and that includes physical, but it also includes the electronic files, defining your mission, clarifying your goals, which will align with your mission, and then finding your focus, which to me is your shorter term focus of what do you need to do in the next 1, 2, 3 months. Getting organised is another area, and time mastery, which is what we're going to focus on today. So with time, it's a nice quote, it doesn't matter where you start, how you invest your time will determine where you're finished. So the time to get efficient with your time management is now. Okay, goals. Time management and time mastery, you need to have a goal to work to, which gives you the drive to get out of bed in the morning. And a reason to master your time. Now, I've got some really cool quotes on goals that I put in just because I can. A goal is a dream with a deadline. Goals are like magnets. They attract the things that make them come true. How cool is that one? The way to get started is to quit talking and to start doing. So true. And your goals are the roadmaps that guide you and show you what is possible for your life. Also true. So we need to break our goals down into this month, this week, the next day. So on a daily basis, it's thinking about the one thing, and there's a book called The One Thing that Gary Keller and Jay Papasan did, which I just found really useful. What is the one thing that I can do which will move me or my business towards my goal? Don't stop until that one thing is done every day. So it's putting an absolute priority on the things that matter to you. Okay, before we get into it, the mastery of time, what's your time worth? We have 1,440 very precious minutes in each day, 48 weeks of 40 hours each. Now, before expenses with no paid leave, which is what business owners are doing, this is how many hours. So at $50 an hour, if you were charging out 40 hours a week for 48 weeks, that would bring you in $96,000 before expenses. And as you can see, $80 an hour is $154. 100 is 192, 130 an hour is 250, and $150 an hour is $288. So we need to be really wary of undervaluing our time because these rates aren't taking in the expenses, and they're looking at only working for 48 weeks of the year. So it's something that really you need to be very aware of. Let me just have a look here. Okay, that's all right. Does this look like you at all? Can you identify with this? Perhaps if you pop something in the chat if you want to add something. If I can find the chat. It's gone. My chat is gone. Interesting. Okay. Keep going. Okay. So what are you doing with your time? Before we can start to really master our time, we have to be really aware of what we're doing. So the best way to do this, and I do this whenever there's a fairly significant change, is record how you spend your time for 1 to 2 normal weeks. That is without public holidays, not on school holidays, whatever's normal for you, in 15-minute blocks, so 24/7. So you get a really good picture of what you're doing. So analyse where you're spending your time. Now, there'll be sleep time, there's personal care time, there's preparing and sourcing food, there's housework, social, commuting, your work time, your business time, perhaps hobbies, whatever else you're doing. These all form the rich tapestry of your life. Now, with recording your work time, it's really good to split that up into the type of jobs that you're doing. Whether you're doing admin, meeting with a client, marketing, networking, actually doing the face-to-face work of dealing with your clients, or whether it's perhaps preparing orders, making deliveries, doing installations, whatever it is that you do, you need to split that up. And also what I do is put in when there's interruptions and mark how long they were, because that can be quite significant. So then you analyse it. And what does it tell you? What does it tell you about the time and your time and how you're spending your weeks, and what needs to change? Most of us can find something that needs to change. It can be procrastination. It can be that we're focusing on the things that don't matter. We're being busy, but we're not actually being productive in that we're moving our business and ourselves forward. So, point number 2, once you've got that information, focus on your strengths. So what do you do best? What are you most interested in doing? What's the best use of your time? And that can be in conflict with something you do best. And what goals and activities drive you forward towards your goals? In my case, I can get very happily absorbed in doing a spreadsheet, which may not be the best use of my time when I should be doing some marketing or writing a blog post, because these are the things that, to me, while they're important, I find it easier to procrastinate with the written word than with spreadsheets. So I have to block my time and be diligent in making myself do the written work. And I think we all have these comfort zones, and it's just good to be aware of them and manage it. So schedule time to focus on your strengths. And more. And what are you doing that you find boring, or you find particularly challenging, or that is not good use of your time, so low value tasks? Here, can these tasks be outsourced or delegated? This is it can be fairly difficult to delegate and outsource, but you can start in easy areas of perhaps having someone mow your lawns, clean the house, get your food delivered. Aussie farmers have spoilt that one for me. So it's anywhere that can take the pressure off you, finding a virtual assistant, getting someone to help you with your marketing, any of these things. I'll get on to the details of delegation later. Okay. When you're looking at how much time you've spent in your week, look at the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle. Pareto was an economist. I can't remember, 15th century, I think. And he found out that 20% of the effort gets 80% of the results. So we need to be looking at that 20%. And it applies across everything. It's really uncanny. 20% of the projects make 80% of the revenue. 20% of the people do 80% of the work. And if you've ever worked in a corporate office, you can vouch for that one. 20% of customers generate 80% of the sales. 20% of the projects cause 80% of the problems, and 20% of the customers cause 80% of the headaches. So the trick with time, to master your time, is to find the 20% of the customers that generate the 80% of the sales. So we're looking for that particular 20%. And that comes down to some work that you would do in that I help people with in my mentoring, is to understand their contribution margin and how much each product or service they've got is contributing to the bottom line. So as you can see, this gets back to everything is interlinked. The next one, say no. It's so simple to say. It's so difficult to do sometimes. But to be kind to ourselves, sometimes we need to just say no, to give ourselves breathing space to do what matters. Your time is precious. And so the question is, does the task need to be done? When someone's asking you, does it really need to be done? If the answer is yes, who else can do it? And if the answer is no, relax and cross it off the list. So unless it's one of your priority tasks, let's get it at least down the list or off your list. Okay, schedule blocks of time. This is probably the biggest area that has made the biggest difference to me. Scheduling my blocks of time. So you block it in your calendar. at the time that suits you. For me, I try and work between 8 or 8:30 for a couple of hours, and that's when I'm most productive. I block out that time. Unless my job is to make calls, I don't make calls. I turn off my social media. My daughter knows that I've got the door closed and I'm working till that late morning time, so not to interrupt me. And you put in that time, because that's my best working time. I put in that time what I need to work on today, what really has to be done, and get on with that. So this is setting the priority tasks to be completed in that time. Marking your time as unavailable and treat these appointments. You've got to treat them with the same respect you would customer appointments. And communicate with your team. My team being my daughter, like, stay away until I've got this bit of work done. And stick to the time and get stuck into the work. Set a timer going. I did a workshop recently on blogging, because that's, again, my written word is more challenging. And we started off with half an hour to write a blog post, and then by the first afternoon we were knocking them out in 20 minutes, to the point that they needed to just be proofread, tidied up a little bit, and they're ready to go. It probably could have taken me an hour. Just when there's a time pressure on, you get it out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be really good, and you can do it. It's really, really intriguing. Okay, get rid of distractions. Let's repeat it. So, as I said earlier, turn off the email and your phone for some time each day, and that means turn them off so that you're not getting the pings from email and social media that just are continuous. Another thing that's really useful is to work in another location for periods each day or each week. It gives you a different view on the world. So I sometimes take things out onto my back deck, go to a library, go to a coffee shop, or perhaps a co-working space, or if you work in an office, work from home. And let people know your changed availability to cut down the interruptions. Okay. 7, ban multitasking. Multitasking or task switching, it's akin to mental juggling. You are going from left to right, from numbers to words, from written word to spoken word. You're just giving yourself a headache. Every time you switch your focus, there's a mental cost, and you reduce your effectiveness. You will get more tired more quickly if you're multitasking. Now, the cost of multitasking increases with the complexity of the task. So if you think about talking while you wash the dishes, it's not that difficult, versus the impact of using a mobile phone while driving. So the more complex tasks are, that distraction just takes a bigger chunk. So we're just being less effective. Okay, so in doing one task at a time, the next time you find yourself multitasking, stop, set a time limit on the task, focus on one task at a time. You will be able to complete the task with less time and less energy. And why isn't that going? Use time blocking. As I mentioned before, time blocking starts to that time blocking with focus and focused on the important jobs really does start to overcome some of this tendency to multitask. One thing that can help is sequencing your tasks. I've put here set reports to run while you work on another task. But it's what we do every day when we're at home. We put the washing machine on while we make dinner. We just don't do everything in sequential order. It's a bit of planning that helps to get things done and to get things done efficiently. Okay, the next one. Meetings. If you've ever worked in corporate, meetings are the bane of our lives, were the bane of our lives. So, need to look at why we're having a meeting. If you're calling a meeting, why? Do you really need to attend the meeting, or do you really need to call a meeting? Can you handle it via email or via a quick conference call? And who really needs to be at the meeting? I've been to meetings where, everyone and their pet dogs and their pet cats came along. But really, who needs to be there and who can make the decisions? There's no good sending someone to a meeting to find that they can't make the decision. So you've sat there and explained something to somebody who didn't understand it, can't make the decision. Minimise and manage meetings. Avoid travel. So use Skype calls, Zooms. Have an agenda with time limits and really stick to that agenda, those time limits. The minutes with due dates and who is responsible to be circulated within 48 hours. That is critical if you want things to get done. I'm on a theatre committee, and it makes such a difference when our secretary gets the minutes out promptly, and we look at them, we remember what was at the meeting, and we get on with the things that have to happen. If those meetings come out a week or 2 or 3 weeks later, we've all forgotten, and you lose the momentum. Another way to get out of meetings is just politely decline and ask for a copy of the minutes. You can follow up if there's anything that you really need to know about. 9, outsource and delegate. Outsourcing is, I define that to offsite contractors who may be overseas. Delegate is to employees. The sort of areas to look at are projects. They're defined short-term specific skills, and they can be things that you can't do or just a good bundle. So websites, graphic designs, a renovation, an extension renovation, you get someone who would manage that project. You get a builder to manage the project. Okay. Things that are ongoing and repetitive. Bookkeeping, admin, social media, help desks, transcription from audio, all these things, responding to emails, data entry, handling physical products, collections. From a small business perspective, you can bundle some of these together, and some are easier to outsource than others. You need to define and agree the scope if you're outsourcing. What are the inputs? What are the timelines? When do things have to be done? The outcomes, what is expected? It needs regular communication, and it needs really, really clear instructions. As I say here, documentation, screenshots, style guides, checklists, videos. And get someone to read your instructions for clarity. In my mentoring, I do quite a bit of work with people in establishing their systems and documenting their systems. And making sure that documentation can be followed. So it's a document and test process. And put KPIs in place to monitor performance. Key performance indicators are another thing. It's critical to managing staff, whether outsourced or delegated. Some outsourcing tips. Places you can look: Fiverr, Freelancer, Upwork websites. Perhaps you know a virtual assistant in your network, or someone has a virtual assistant. And it can take the right time to find the right contractor or, in fact, employee. My best advice for dealing with outsourced contractors through Fiverr, Upwork and the like is to start with small, non-urgent jobs. And you're looking for someone who's got clear communications, delivery as agreed and on time, looking at the quality of their work, their attitude, and of course ask other people for referrals for somebody who was a good contractor. Right. Now, delegating to staff, it really is the same as to a contractor that you're going to have someone working off-site for a longer period of time rather than as a simple project. Documentation, communication and training. Your systems and your process have to be documented. Simple checklists are my preferred method of documentation. You do need screen dumps and manuals and things for some tasks. It's really critical that there's good documentation. Your communication and training, like the first attempt will take longer, and your contractor won't be 100% right. You can guarantee that. And yes, you could have done it faster and better, but the improvement should be rapid. If you take the time to show someone, you do it with them, you watch them do it, and then you let them go. And then you check and you check. And it's a checking process. It's part of internal controls that you have within your systems. But you should be able to delegate tasks fairly quickly to suitably qualified staff or contractors. It's a case of establishing trust, and it's much easier. So if you trust that they can do the job and they trust that you're giving them the right instructions, it's going to be a lot easier. Letting go. That should say letting go may be difficult. It's very liberating when you've let go of a job that's taken you a long time. You may have enjoyed doing it, but that is hours of every week that is gone. And when you're looking for attitude and cultural fit when you're hiring, good attitude and common sense can't be replaced sometimes. It's that keenness just makes all the difference. And start people off on a short-term contract if you're employing, because that really can save problems further down the track with all the unfair dismissal rules. So just protect yourself. With staff, on yourself actually, did I achieve the one thing today? What do I need to change tomorrow? So we can look at our daily, weekly and monthly goals and our performance against those goals, how we're tracking. The other thing that we should schedule in is quarterly offsite reviews and planning, so that each quarter you look back at what you've done against what you said you'd do. You look at your profit and loss, how you're tracking, what worked, what didn't work, and rejig your plan for the next 3 months. It's incredibly valuable, and I run quarterly planning days, which are really valuable. I've been going to a quarterly planning day for some years and have found it particularly useful. So let's go to the next slide. Do you feel like this sometimes? Yeah, climbing to the summit of a very high mountain. That could be Mount Everest. I don't know what it is, but we do feel sometimes that we're just climbing to the top of a mountain. But there's one thing that you would see, that if you're going to climb to the top of Everest, if you're going to get to the heights, you need help. And I would say that business is a team sport. You really can't do it alone. You need customers for sure, but to support you within your business, there's a lot of other skills that are needed to help you along the way, because we're all trained in a particular discipline, whatever that was, and we're good at that, but that doesn't mean that we're trained in everything else that we need to do to run a business. And you see how many departments there are in big businesses. Small businesses, those departments tend to rest with one or very few people. Next one. And this slide's put in simply because that's what I aspire to. I aspire to be spending more time down by the beach. Now, to climb the mountain so that we can get to spend time at the beach or wherever our happy place is, we need to take actions. So, starting now, what actions do you need to take? And I really wish I could see this chat. I just cannot see the chat here, which is really annoying. But I would love to know which of the strategies resonate with you. My suggestion is you start with one or two and work on them. So what do you need to do? What do you need to start doing? Stop doing? And continue. This is a great exercise to do when you're doing your quarterly review as well, just to reflect. That's great stuff. Okay. So I'd like to thank you for the time you've taken out of your busy schedule to come and learn some of the time mastery strategies. It hasn't been a lot of time to go through them, but I've given you 9. And if that's okay, I'd like to let you know how and where you can go for some more help. So what would you do with an extra hour a day? How much closer would you be to your goals in 6 months or 12 months? How much better would you feel? So, what has worked best for me, as I said, is time blocking. So it's setting aside the time every day, setting myself up for a good day with a bit of meditation and imagining and visualising what it will be like when those big jobs are done each day. That makes it easier to get things done, and turning off social media. So they're my things. What are your things? Now we're here back to the Operations Genie system, and as I've alluded to a bit in the webinar, self, strategy and systems are really interlinked, and once you start to control different facets of your planning, your strategy, the systems, yourself, managing time, managing staff, things can start to get together. And truly, when everything's running well when all these interdependencies are balanced. It's like a well-oiled machine. It really is magical. To give you just a little bit of a look at the components of, oh, there it is. I was talking about it and I forgot to move it. Sorry. So there's the components of the Operations Genie system. Strategy. The areas that I work in are pricing strategy, which includes costing and what your margins are, business planning, marketing planning, succession planning, and disaster planning, which you don't really want to think about them, the disaster planning, but it really is important. And succession planning is, where do you see the business in 10 years? What are you going to build? It really is a good motivator. Systems, documentation, really important with your systems. Is internal control. When you get staff, you must split things between creating, checking and approving. Delegating and outsourcing, they're really key skills. Understanding reports, getting the right reports, and setting KPIs so you can monitor what people are doing without breathing down their necks and micromanaging. The rewards. The rewards of having a business that's well balanced and running like this well-oiled machine is consistent delivery to customers, time for you, and less stress. You have a clear focus, which moves you forward towards your goals. Really importantly, you can create a business that can operate without you being there all the time, which can give you personal and financial freedom. The big one is time for you. And here's a lovely quote from John Wooden. Do not let making a living prevent you from making a life. That one really resonates with me after years in corporates. You know, I was making a living, but I wasn't making a life in there. Okay, so Operations Genie provides group mentoring. And why group mentoring? And lets you focus on getting your business act together and getting shit done. There's regular hot seats where your business is the focus. We work on developing your business and your marketing plans, your mission and your goals. We have fortnightly accountability, which seems to make a difference. If you say you'll do something, you might be up all night the night before doing it, but you will do it in that time frame. We look at strengthening your business systems. And, of course, wherever there's a group of like-minded individuals, networking and joint venture opportunities. It's the benefit of that peer support. So group mentoring includes fortnightly Zoom calls, and this is a 6-month program of 13 calls of 60 minutes each, which is $2,600. The value, the quarterly planning day, we have 2 at $197 a day, which is $394. There's a secret Facebook group and unlimited email support, and the Operations Genie book. So the total package is $4,188. And here's the link, http://bit.ly/gen_mentor, which can get you onto this opportunity. So my group mentoring package, the total value, $4,188. The usual package price is $2,147 or $397 per month for 6 months. Now, as this is the beta group, My mentoring package price is only $1,597 as a one-off payment, or 6 payments of $297. Just the code underneath. And to get onto that particular web page, you need to put in a passcode, which is Mentor Me. Plus, there's a bonus. Again, because this is the beta package, beta mentoring group, there's a bonus for taking action within the next 2 days, which is a one-on-one success strategy session valued at $500. So we have the value of $4,188, the beta group special price of $1,597 or $297 per month, the fortnightly group mentoring calls, fortnightly hot seats, peer support via the Facebook group and my support as well, of course, email support, which is unlimited, a quarterly planning day, and the Operations Genie book. Plus the bonus of one hour strategy session. So what happens next? You've got 48 hours to lock in this price. After that, it goes back to the regular price of $397 a month. Complete a short application form, which is also on this page. Pay the full amount or the first month's $297. The fortnightly call dates and times will be negotiated within the group. I am open to day or evening, depending on the night of the week. I'll go with what the majority do. I can flex on some days, so we'll see what works best for everyone. And the first call will be in the week of the 5th of April. So that gives us a week to sort dates and times. And I'll be in contact with you within 24 hours to book your bonus success strategy session. So in 12 months' time, you will have one of the following: reasons or results. And now we'll just open up to any questions that you might have. Maybe. There's my question slide. So, do you have any questions? No questions?
No, Helen, I don't think I do at the moment, but that sounds really good.
Good.
What you're offering, the program.
Yep. Jolly good.
Yeah, there's hot seats, there's other supports available as well, which is really good, and a regular touch points, which I think is really important.
Yes, and I'd be one thing I didn't mention, depending on how the group is feeling, we'll go, we dive deep into different areas, and we'll, over the 6 months, we'll, dive into each of the self-strategy and systems. I'd like to get the strategy part probably happening earlier, but I will go a bit with the group to see where their business is and where their need is. So, yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's great.
So, yeah, if you've got no more questions. Well, thank you for being on the webinar. I really appreciate your time. I hope you've got something useful out of it. And I will send you I've got a PDF of the 9 strategies for saving, for mastering your time. So I'll email that to you so you can have that, and hope it increased your awareness of how you're spending your time.
Yes, thank you. It did. And the PDF will be really helpful.
That's great.